guys, it's M4J here and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. Now last time I explained why each episode was 22 minutes long or thereabouts. Today it's 25 minutes long. Basically this was a slightly longer clip than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was 40 to 45 minutes. It was actually close to an hour. So I increased the video length just a tad to make sure that everything was visible during the video. Now today we are adding in probably the last major Bahecity Connect services. There are still 2 or 3 more to go in after this, particularly out towards Bruntford, and I think there might be another one that heads out towards like Tarnway and Funston, in that sort of direction, maybe terminating at Waterside Airport. I'm not 100% certain yet, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now though, we are adding in these services. So the first one, so last episode we added in one that ran between Bahecity and Dendstone and terminated in the bay platforms there. But that was 2 episodes ago now, I believe. Or was that last episode? No, that must have been 2 episodes ago. Yeah, that must have been 2 episodes ago. Because this first one we're doing runs between Bahecity and Tuningley Estelle via Dendstone. And you can see here it switches over to the fast lines just outside Bahecity before we reach, is it Punley Market? I can't actually read it on my screen, it's a little bit small. That's the first one we do. Then the second one we do runs to Dendstone Carnegie, also via Dendstone Rotea. So we're adding more and more connections now between Bahecity and other sort of major towns and cities that have connections to Guard City. So we're really starting to integrate everything together into a network, and that's basically what this series has been building up to over the last however many episodes now, sort of 10 to 15 episodes. It's really starting to get that big link now between the 2 major cities of Guard City and Bahecity, and forming that cross-network connection between the north and the south. And I'm very happy to say that I actually, apart from one little hiccup, there was one station on the line, I think it was Hanning Hall West, on the line between Dendstone and Dendstone. There was one station that it straddles the fast lines, and I hadn't held control when I placed the platforms on the western side, so it was 2 separate stations instead of 1. So apart from that one little hiccup, every other service that you'll see me place in this video, including ones down towards Plenborough, which is somewhere else that we've not really, I think we had 1 service that connected to there in the Majeffries network. Now we've got 2 services that run between Bahecity Central and Plenborough Torina, which is the southernmost high-speed connection. They all ran without a hitch, which I thought was really, really good. I had to do a little bit of signal reconfiguring, which I think you also see in this episode, in fact, on the south coast line. But that's another little connection that we're starting to add now, is the route across the south coast, which is something I said originally wasn't going to be part of Bahecity Connect. But when I rebuilt the route off camera between last episode and this, when I was recording footage and things like that, I realised that actually it was a perfect opportunity. So to whoever it was that suggested that we connect Plenborough up to the Bahecity network, I apologise, because I dismissed it at first, but actually it's a very wise decision, a very good idea. So I'm very, very happy to actually be able to add that to the rest of the Bahecity commuter network. And like I said, we will be extending eventually out towards Bruntford. Even if we don't reach Bruntford, we will be using some more of that south coast route just to get a little bit more, outreach, a bit more outreach from Bahecity. Plus we've still got the east and the west connections to do. That will be built sometime in the future. We'll be doing the connections, building the actual infrastructure first as a time-lapse, and then we'll be planning out the services and adding the services after that. So it's all coming together very, 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 very nicely. So what are we talking about today? I'm going to talk a little bit more about rolling stock, and I'm also going to talk a little bit more about future plans, because I kind of hinted at it last time. We'll be building things like airports, connecting up air services, and things like that. One thing I didn't really touch on was air freight, which is something that will be added in the future, and it might even be started in the next few episodes. So Guard City South Freight Terminal currently has a massive body of water next to it, which is connected to the Guard City Canal, which takes it up, well, it forms a nice link actually between Guard City South and Guard City North freight terminals. They will have a series of cargo ships connecting the two together, carrying all sorts of things from goods to manufacturing supplies, engineering supplies, scrap metal, coal, iron ore, lumber, cotton. Is that a thing on here? I don't know if it actually is, but basically everything you can think of, fish, food, everything will all be carried backwards and forwards using cargo ships between those two freight terminals. But we're also going to be connecting other freight terminals to Guard City South via air. So right now there isn't one yet, but there will be an airport built at Guard City South Freight Terminal that will connect to the freight terminal itself, and it will be for cargo planes only. So it's probably going to be a sort of a medium to large-ish sized airport. It's not going to be the international airport. It's probably not even going to be a hub airport size. It's probably going to be using the, I think, is it you got small, large. I think it's the large. It's kind of like, it's large is actually medium in terms of airports with these patches in OpenTTD. It's very confusing. It's because the original Transport Tycoon, large was the largest, and that extra sizes have been added since. That's why it's called large. But anyway, we'll be using something like a large airport just so we can get cargo planes in and out. And there's plans to build a freight terminal up in the very northeast corner, just south of Gronwell Superion. That will probably have an airport as well, to connect those two together, just so it's not all freight trains. I'm going to try and avoid connecting Morningpool Falls up with an airport, because then that would defeat the point pretty much of having trains. So any sort of real long distance cargo services will be air-based, because again you have to factor in the fact that aeroplanes can't actually carry that much cargo when it comes to things like coal. But I don't even think aircraft can carry coal in this game. I believe they can't carry oil. So it's really sort of goods, food, that kind of thing that will be carried by plane. So things that are worth a lot of money over long distances, they're the kind of things that will be carried by aircraft. Everything else will be road, rail, sea, or water. So keep an eye out for that, and also if you have any ideas or suggestions for how to actually implement that kind of thing, then feel free to suggest them down below in the comment section, or if you'd rather do it on Discord or Reddit, feel free to do that as well. Links to both should be in the description. That's the kind of thing I want to work on next. So I'm pretty happy with where we are with the rail now. Everything's starting to get connected. There's multiple ways now to go between Guard City and Bahecity. There's also multiple ways to go between Guard City and the rest of the network. So between now and the next time we come back to rail, I'll be doing the speed limit sheets for the lines between Munfingford Paragon and Tarnway and Funston. I'll also be doing the sheet between Munfingford and Buntbourne, so we can get more trains running down that way. I'll be adding some rail services off camera, so you guys won't necessarily see it, but the big rail link between Munfingford and Plenborough, I will be building that on camera, just so you guys can actually see it, all come together quite nicely. And that's kind of the last piece of the puzzle in terms of main north to south routes. There's a lot of east to west routes that have been suggested, and they will be built as well to help complete the picture there. But in terms of north to south, Munfingford down towards Plenborough, as well as being a major link for the Guard City Southwestern services, there's also potential links there for the Great Western franchise as well. Because right now the Great Western extends down as far as Charwood, but it might extend a little bit further from Munfingford down to the south, just so there's more options for services. Because it is quite a small franchise actually, the Great Western one. It seems quite big and quite expansive. But it's a bit like if you've ever played the game Trains and you build a custom route. You place down tiles, but only to the width of your actual track. And then everything beyond that is just the void. And that's kind of what the Great Western's a bit like. You've got this huge length, but it's very thin. So the adding the branch lines that we did a little while ago now, that was to try and sort of broaden the horizons of the Great Western franchise a little bit more. The Charwood extension as well, and the Munfingford extension, they're both designed to increase the size of the franchise. But because the franchise holder of the Great Western is actually on the top tier at the moment, it sort of makes sense to increase the size of that franchise to match the tier, if that makes sense. And that will be the case for other people as well if you have a franchise and you're in the top tier, because you choose your own franchise. But then if you choose a small one and you're in the top tier, then I will try and sort of match it so that it's a similar size to the pledge. I think that's only fair. At the end of the day, I think that's only fair. Right, so this is the little section here towards Dendstone. All the speed limits and everything here has also been done. So for this section, actually, the speed limits from Buntbourne all the way down to Dendstone has been completed. So in theory, I can, as well as run these Bahecity Connect services between Bahecity and Dendstone, I could also run Guard City Southeastern services between Guard City and Dendstone from the north and the south, depending on, depending on which services need to call where. I also need to correct myself as well, because last episode I was talking about the Guard City Southwestern main line that runs down to Tuningley, and that's not true at all. It is the Guard City Southeastern franchise and main route that runs down to Tuningley and also down to Dendstone. So I mucked up there. I apologise for that. I'm sure someone, by the time that video goes out, I'm sure someone will correct me in the comments, because that always happens. But yeah, actually placing these trains is taking a little bit longer than I thought it would, which is quite funny, because I'm pretty sure when I did this it felt like I was flying through it, but there we go. I've also just turned my Xbox off with my knee by mistake, so things are probably going to go a bit AWOL in a second while my monitors reset themselves. So if I stop talking for a second, or if I can't see what's on the screen, do bear with me. But as you can see, running south out of Dendstone, it looks like a 4-track main line, but it's actually 2 lots of 2. So the easternmost curve down to the east and connect up towards Dendstone, and the western 2 connect down towards the main line that runs to Buntbourne via Munton. I'm trying to remember all the stations now. There's quite a few. And this is where I used to get confused when I was scanning across the network, because there's about 4 main lines that all sort of run through a similar landscape, and they all run east to west, so trying to identify them all was almost impossible. But now I've actually gone through, rebuilt a couple. I've kind of scanned them a lot when doing all the speed limits as well, so I've learnt them, which is always a good thing to do when you're working with something like this, particularly when you're recording time-lapse videos and you have to try and remember everything. I have learnt what the rail routes look like. It's my crowning achievement in this series. So from now on, I shouldn't get lost. Fingers crossed. But yes, this section here. So we've placed the 2 services, one to Tuningley, one to Dendstone. Now we're going to start heading south. And this is the first time in a long time, actually. It's the first time in this series, and it's also the first time on this network for probably 2 years that we've actually headed south out of Bahecity. And this first one is a little tiddler service. It's very short, very sweet. All it does is it connects up Bahecity Central with Rinningley Market, which is the first major station outside of the second capital. And it's a little shuttle, runs backwards and forwards. I think there's 2 trains, somewhere between 2 and 4 trains that actually service this route. Very, very small, very tiny. But I think it's a needed one. I think it is a needed one. Eventually, this service will probably be extended down towards Pruntford, and that's why I wanted to put this one in, because it seems a bit pointless considering the other 2 services that we had in this episode also run through Rinningley Market. One is also an all-stopper between Bahecity and Rinningley Market, so you're probably wondering why have I included this one. But right now it's kind of the little shuttle service, because I mean, you look at the size of Rinningley Market, that's all one town that you see on screen there. I say town, it's more like a metropolis, so it needed its own service really to run backwards and forwards. But yeah, you can see the little branch line coming out to the southeast that runs alongside the existing main line and eventually curves off to the east, runs through a few small towns and villages, and then connects up with the main line towards Pruntford. That will all eventually be served by little commuter trains like the ones we're adding here. So this shuttle service might be extended. There's also the fact that when it reaches the south coast, it turns into a triangular junction. It either runs west towards the big main station, where some other services from Bahecity will also terminate, or it turns east and heads down towards Pruntford. So if we do have a service that runs down to Pruntford from Bahecity, it will use that little triangular junction. And then if we do extend this one down that way as well, that will probably terminate. It will head east to that junction and terminate at that big station, and then we'll add a new service that skips out some stations between Bahecity and Rinningley Market. Maybe even runs a bit semi-fast down the branch line as well. and then when it connects up to the main line, it will be an all-stopper again. Just little ideas like that. And again, if you've got any suggestions of your own, feel free to post them in the comment section down below. It's always appreciated. Or head over to Discord or Reddit. And I always say this, and I'll stick with it. Discord is the best place to discuss ideas openly, because I can reply instantly and it's like a back and forth conversation. But if you have got images or videos or anything like that, sometimes they're a bit too big for Discord, so Reddit is a really good place to leave ideas as well. Although I'm always on Reddit, but I'm not always responding to posts and comments. You might have to bear with me a little bit there. Right, whereabouts are we? So we're heading down now towards... okay, I know where we are. We're heading towards Plenborough right here. So again, Plenborough is going to be very busy in the near future. You can see it's already built, ready for all these services that are going to be coming in. There's 3 main lines that converge at Plenborough. You can only see 2 on screen right now, but I'm going to do a little bit of rebuilding in the future, which means that junction where all the lines come together is going to be a little bit bigger and a little bit busier. But essentially, you've got the main route that heads up towards Bruntford and then turns up towards Bahecity. I've actually called it the Bahecity branch, even though Bruntford is probably the better name for it. I just assumed, you know, Bahecity is the capital of this area of the map, so it makes more sense to make that be the focal point of the route. And then the other route, which hasn't been waypointed yet, that is probably going to be... Just trying to think. So the one that runs like on a U-bend and heads west again, that runs down to Sanley Central. And I think the northern one goes up to Dendstone. Not Dendstone, Drentbourne. And then on to Dendstone. So I guess that'd be the Drentbourne branch, and then the Sanley branch would be the third one. So there's 3 major main routes that converge here. And there will be some express services that run from Bahecity down to Sanley, and we'll have to reverse here at Plenborough because of the design of the station. And it's kind of, there's a couple of services in real life in the UK that do that. There aren't many, but there are some. So it's true to life in that respect. I think I've broken my Xbox when recording this video, but there we go. I'll have to fix that in a second. It's doing something, it's got flashing lights and all kinds of things. So yeah, this is the sort of stopping service that runs between Bahecity and Plenborough. There is going to be a semi-fast one in a second that's added as well. The really exciting thing, I've not done it yet, and I probably won't be doing it for a little while, but in theory we can now run direct services between Wenningpool Acidalia, which is right up in the north, and Plenborough via Bahecity, which is going to be part of the Bahecity Express franchise. Which is probably going to be renamed in the future. Oh, that was the game console that you saw come up there. For some reason, I've never done it before until I was recording this episode, but the tilde key, which is the one just to the left of the 1 key on your keyboard, that opens up the console, the game console. And as I said, I've never done it before, but now every time I press 1 on my keyboard to put in like 15 minutes or 15 or 100 miles an hour, whatever it might be, anything that has a 1 in it, I always seem to click the tilde key as well. So now you'll see a couple of times actually the console window will open up on the screen. I've never used the console before. I knew how to get to it, but I've never used it before. So I don't want anyone thinking I'm using cheats or anything like that. I mean, I've already admitted the fact that I've used the money cheat up to now. Although I've not used it probably 3-4 months, I think was the last time I used it. It was way before I switched over to the JGR patch. I've not used it since, so that gives you an idea as to how long ago it was. Right, last service of the episode. Normally at this point I would stop talking and let the music take over, but I think for this one I'm going to try and time it so that I finish talking bang on 25 minutes. We shall see, because I've tried that before. It's one of the other reasons actually why I let the music take over at the end, is so that I don't talk over the end of the video, because that can sometimes cause problems. So we shall see if that works out or not. But yeah, this is the last service. It's technically an express for a lot of the route, but it does cross over to the slow lines to call it a couple of stations that only the slow lines serve. So it's a bit of both. Semi-fast is probably the best name for it, even though, I mean, pretty much off the bat here it runs non-stop between Bahecity and Ridingley Market, and then I think it runs non-stop between Putfield, I think is the name where the junction is, and Plenborough. And it's just that one little section before it reaches the south coast where it stops at a couple of stations on the slow lines. But one of the good things of having these speed limits and waypoints and things like that is even the faster trains now can't get held up by the slower trains on the slow line because they all go at the same speed. So even though some slow services do stop at more stations, I have checked this when I was preparing for this episode, and they do actually run without getting in each other's way, which is good. All of these services that you see me place here, they're all hourly, and they're all sort of designed to stagger a little bit so that it's not just half hourly or anything like that. Sometimes there might be 10 minutes between these trains, sometimes there might be 45 minutes, whatever it might be. But each one, if you want a direct service between Bahecity and Plenborough, for example, you've got two choices. These do run staggered, so they're every half an hour in theory, but every hour is the semi-fast, and then every hour is the more stopping train, and they run at half-hour gaps between the two. I can never think of a way of explaining it properly. It's basically like the 5 past the hour might stop at more stations, and then the 35 minutes past the hour or 25 minutes to the hour will run more semi-fast, expressy type service. That's probably... I need to learn how to say these things. I need to learn the terminology. I need to learn how to say the terminology, by the sounds of it. And then yeah, there's a lot of trains now that are going to be coming in and out of Bahecity Central, but it's a big station. All the junctions and everything were designed for high capacity, so we should be a-okay. We should be absolutely fine. Now I know I said I was going to talk for the full 25 minutes, but I think actually I've run out of things to say. So instead of me sitting here umming and ahhing trying to think of something else to add, I think I might just let the music take over. Be that lazy content creator that everyone knows I am. It's nice music though. It's not the end of the world after all, is it? We shall see. Basically, I mean, if I can fill these next 3 minutes, believe me, I will. But if not, then there'll be some music that plays between now and the outro. So yeah, I've already said what's basically coming over the next few episodes. There will be some more Patreon-only videos coming up in the future as well, including a couple of rebuilds here and there. All of the rebuilds will be done in the main series, of course. They won't be Patreon-only videos, but some of the smaller rebuilds, some of the station rebuilds, like Nut Hill City Centre, for example, they will all be done as Patreon-only videos. Just because they're not necessarily interesting or long enough to be main videos, and the 0.5 videos, well, I've said this in the past, the 0.5 videos are going to be the ones that become the Patreon-only videos anyway. So all the existing ones will still be free for you guys to watch, but all future ones will become Patreon-only. Now, you might have noticed a little click in the speech there. Basically, I was brushing some dust off my keyboard, and I accidentally pressed the end record button, which is fun. So, yeah, that's 2 recordings instead of 1. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything for this episode. You can see me just finishing off the last of this train here. I think there was 54, something like that, new trains, somewhere between 50 and 60 new trains added over the last couple of episodes, and there will be a few more added off camera between now and next episode as well. So there's plenty of train activity happening on the network now. So I think it's about time that we added some other vehicles, planes, buses, all that kind of good stuff. And populated the map just that little bit more. I'm really looking forward to getting the aircrafts working again. To actually see aircraft landing in Bahecity would be very, very nice indeed. But yeah, that's it for this episode. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you're enjoying the series. Drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes, and also check out the Discord and the Reddit, which are also the best places to leave ideas, as well as the comment section. They're all good ideas. They're all good places, because I do check them all, believe me. Every comment that's left on the channel, I do read it, regardless of whether it's nice or not nice. Besides that, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, which will hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support. It's been really encouraging to see that the sub count hasn't been affected too much by my absence for the last couple of weeks. So thank you very much, everybody, for your continued support. Thank you for your patience as well. There's been some nice comments on Discord and other places wishing me well. It's all very much appreciated. And this is the last episode of me recording the catch-up. So from now on, my voice should be absolutely fine and not croaky, and I won't be clearing my throat and coughing every 5 seconds. Yeah, thanks guys for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.